Too long I've been parched of thirst and unable to quench it. Too long I've been starving to death and haven't died. I feel nothing. Not the wind on my face, nor the spray of the sea, nor the warmth of a woman's flesh. You best start believing in ghost stories, Miss Turner. You're in one.
The curse of the Aztec gold was a dark magic cast upon Cortés's treasure, which consisted of a stone chest containing 882 pieces of Aztec gold. The Aztec Empire gave this chest of gold to Hernán Cortés in an attempt to stop the slaughter of their people. But in his greed, Cortés refused to halt his conquest, and for this the pagan gods placed a curse on the gold. Any mortal who took a piece from the chest would be punished for eternity. The only way to lift the curse was to return all the pieces of Aztec gold and make a payment in blood. Upon hearing the story for the first time, Hector Barbosa's crew laughed at the tales of the curse, and Barbosa himself believed it was nothing more than a ridiculous superstition. By the time they learned the truth, it was too late. Eventually, Cortés's treasure ended up in the caves of Isla de Muerta, and it took 10 years before the crew's curse was lifted. Captain Jack Sparrow, unaffected by the tales of the curse, intended to find Cortés's treasure aboard the Black Pearl. Jack had heard rumors that the treasure was cursed, but fortunately for him, Hector Barbosa and his crew abandoned him before he could take his share of the gold. When Jack first told the crew about the curse, they did not believe him, and even Barbosa dismissed it as nothing more than a ridiculous superstition. Using a map acquired from Jack Sparrow, Captain Hector Barbosa and his crew were able to find Isla de Muerta. There they found the stone chest and stole all 882 pieces of the Aztec gold, an act the crew would later regret. Captain Barbosa and his crew spent the 882 pieces of Aztec gold on drinks, food, and pleasurable company. Soon after, the crew realized they had fallen under the curse, suffering a kind of living death where they could not feel or taste anything. When exposed to moonlight, their flesh disappeared from their bones, turning them into walking skeletons. After discovering that the Aztec gold pieces had cursed them, Barbosa's crew returned to Isla de Muerta to find a way to lift the curse and end their torment. There they learned that the curse could only be reversed when every last piece of the Aztec gold was returned to the stone chest from which it came. It wasn't until Bootstrap Bill Turner was sent to the depths that the crew learned of an additional requirement, that everyone who had stolen from the chest had to pay the pagan gods in blood, which now seemed impossible with Bootstrap lost to them. However, there was a glimmer of hope with Turner's son, who had both his gold medallion and Turner's blood in his veins. Therefore, Barbosa's crew set out to retrieve the 882 pieces of the treasure. 10 years had passed since the cursed crew began their quest, having collected all but one of the pieces of gold and already given their blood to sort their debt. However, the crew still needed the last coin as well as the blood of their last crew member, Bootstrap Bill Turner, who had been lost. In his absence, they needed the blood of his only son. After sensing the final coin, Barbosa's crew launched an attack on Port Royal. During this attack, Jack Sparrow, who was locked in the town prison, learned that the curse was real when Kohler grabbed him through the prison bars. When moonlight fell on the pirate's arm, Jack murmured, "So there is a curse. That's interesting." After the attack, Barbosa's men obtained the final Aztec gold medallion from Elizabeth Swan, whom they believed to be a descendant of Bootstrap Bill Turner. And so the Black Pearl set a course for Isla de Muerta. As the Black Pearl sailed under the moonlit night, Barbosa had Elizabeth as his guest for dinner in his cabin. It was here that Barbosa told Elizabeth the story of the curse and how it had befallen the crew, making them unable to feel or taste. Barbosa also told her that her blood was the final ingredient needed to lift the curse. After that, Elizabeth jumped up and tried to run out of the cabin, stabbing Barbosa with a knife from the table. However, she was shocked to see that Barbosa was still alive and found herself face to face with the captain's undead, skeletal crew. Barbosa explained the effect of the curse on the crew, drinking wine as evidence. Elizabeth ran back to the cabin, where she remained for the rest of the voyage, terrified by what she had seen. Upon arriving at Isla de Muerta, Barbosa used Elizabeth to perform the blood ritual to lift the curse. However, although they performed the ritual, the entire crew felt no different. As proof, Barbosa shot Pintel with his pistol to see if the curse had been lifted, but Pintel did not die. Barbosa confronted Elizabeth, realizing that she was not Bootstrap Bill's daughter. The crew then began arguing among themselves about their failed attempt to lift the curse, until Barbosa realized that Elizabeth had taken the medallion and escaped. But with the help of their old captain, whom they had left for dead, Captain Jack Sparrow, the crew managed to catch up with the interceptor and retrieve the medallion. By the time the Black Pearl returned to Isla de Muerta, Barbosa's crew already had Will Turner, the true descendant of Bootstrap Bill Turner, as their prisoner. Upon entering the caves of Isla de Muerta, Barbosa once again attempted to lift his curse, this time intending to kill Will and use his blood in the ritual. Barbosa and his crew prepared to perform the blood ritual once more, but were interrupted by Jack Sparrow, who warned Barbosa that the HMS Dauntless was waiting for them at sea. Despite his desire to lift the curse, Barbosa listened to Jack's proposal and agreed. He then sent his crew to attack, except for 3 of his men. To Jack's dismay, after he had planned for Barbosa's men to use boats to attack the crew of the Dauntless, the captain ordered his crew to take a walk. As the pirates were indestructible, they organized a surprise attack on the Dauntless by simply walking along the seabed and climbing up the ship's anchor to ambush the crew. Barbosa, Will, and Jack waited in the caves for the slaughter to end, until Jack threw a sword to Will. With the tides turned, Will freed himself and fought Barbosa's men, while Jack and Barbosa drew their own swords and engaged in a duel. Jack and Barbosa fought fiercely around the treasure cave until Jack stabbed Barbosa, who then pulled out the sword and stabbed Jack with it. However, once Jack stepped into the moonlight, he turned into a skeleton, revealing that he was cursed, having secretly palmed a piece of Aztec gold. Although both were immortal, Jack and Barbosa continued their fight throughout the caves. Elizabeth then arrived to help Will fight the cursed pirates. Together, they used one of Jacoby's grenades, planted inside him before he reverted to his human form, blowing his body to pieces. Witnessing this, Jack cut his hand, put his blood on his piece of gold, and threw his coin to Will before shooting Barbosa in the heart. Believing himself invincible, Barbosa taunted Jack, saying he had wasted his shot. However, Will dropped the last 2 pieces of gold with his blood on his coin into the chest, thus lifting the Aztec curse. Barbosa then saw his chest bleeding. Human once more, Barbosa seemed to declare that he felt cold before collapsing to the cave floor, dead. Back on the Dauntless, the undead crew returned to normal and surrendered to the Dauntless crew, who survived the battle. Although the surviving members of Barbosa's crew were captured by the British Royal Navy, some escaped and returned to Isla de Muerta, where they were cursed once more, vowing revenge against Jack Sparrow. At some point, Barbosa's pet monkey, Jack, would appear in the cave, where it took a piece of Aztec gold and became cursed again. Sometime later, the entire Isla de Muerta was swallowed by the sea, taking all the treasure with it, effectively disappearing from the face of the earth. Only Jack the monkey survived this, due to the curse, and ended up aboard the Black Pearl under the command of Jack Sparrow. It is unknown if the monkey Jack's curse was ever lifted, but as the destruction of the trident of Poseidon broke all the curses of the sea, it is possible that this curse was one of them. Legends tell that the Aztec curse bestowed by the pagan gods punished anyone who stole from the stone chest. Those who fell under the curse would gain immortality, thus becoming invulnerable. However, the curse deprived the greedy of all sensations, pain or pleasure, food, drink, or women. When the cursed individuals entered the moonlight, they turned into walking undead skeletons. In this state, they were particularly vulnerable to physical damage, with heavy blows being sufficient to disarm them physically. The curse only affected anyone who specifically took the coins from the stone chest. Will Turner and Elizabeth Swan possessed a piece of the treasure that Bootstrap Bill Turner had taken from the chest and were never aware of the curse. When a cursed person takes a coin from the chest, no new curse is given. This is particularly evident after Hector Barbosa used Elizabeth to lift the curse when, after returning the coin, he took it directly from the chest and gave it to Elizabeth, which did not curse her. Hey, don't go just yet. If you enjoyed my video, I'd love to recommend another one for you to watch.